Tonight, government confirms 8 deaths from recent attack in Burkina Faso as at least 7 Ghanaian tomato traders who survived the deadly terrorists arrive in Ghana.
Meanwhile, President John Mahama expresses deep regret over the Valentine's Day killing of Ghanaian tomato traders in northern Burkina Faso.
Also coming up, state prosecutors in corruption case of former National Service Authority Director Osei Bientwi say they will amend the charge sheet of the accused person.
Coming up in business news, analysts warn Cocoa Board's reforms will fail without structural and operational overhauls.
Much later in international news, 3 South Africans charged with murder following the killing of an e-hailing taxi driver. Welcome to the program. We're live also on all our social media platforms at TV3 Ghana. We can get interactive there. Let's settle for the details.
And the government of Ghana says 8 Ghanaians have so far been killed in the recent jihadist attack on February 14 in Titao in the northern province of Burkina Faso. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, initially 7 members of the Ghana National Tomatoes Traders and Transporters Association who engaged in lawful trading activities in the Titao area were attacked and killed by the terrorists. The latest victim, also a member of the association, was one of 4 compatriots who sustained serious injuries and were receiving medical treatment before succumbing. The government of Ghana, meanwhile, wishes to advise Ghanaians who intend to embark on essential travels to areas of concern to first contact the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or embassies accredited to territories they wish to visit for guidance. Meanwhile, 7 Ghanaian tomato traders who survived the deadly terrorist attack in Burkina Faso have safely arrived in Ghana. The female survivors were escorted by Burkinabe security to the Ghanaian border in Paga, where they were received by the Upper East Regional Security Council. 2 others who were critically injured have been airlifted to Accra for further medical attention. Our Upper East Regional correspondent Castro Senyala was at the grounds with the Regional Security Council and joins us for details. Castro, thank you so much for your time. Have you been able to speak to any of the survivors and what have they been telling you?
Yes, good evening, Portia. I have not been able to speak to any of the survivors because they are in a state that wouldn't allow me to engage them. But from the engagement, the government delegation led by the Upper East Regional Minister, Donatus Atanga Akamugri, it's clear that the women are so traumatized and they wouldn't want to go through that anywhere again ever in their lives. We also get the impression from them that it wasn't an easy journey, and they can only be thankful that they have arrived and are in fact on the soil, or Ghanaian soil, and safely back home once more.
Castro, what state were they in when they were brought in?
They were looking devastated. They could not even talk. None of them could speak. Some of them at a point were even shedding tears. First of all, for the fact that God spared their lives and they are back home. And secondly, because most likely they were having a replay of the attack in their minds as they sat at the Paga border, to meet the government delegation. They also looked very tired, very distressed, as some people who have been rescued from a very difficult situation. But in all of it, you could see from their faces that there's been this sigh of relief because they wouldn't even expect, or they were even wondering how they would get back home safely. And now that they're back home, they appeared very happy, but couldn't really express it because of the amount of, torture and then devastation they've been through the past few days.
The Regional Security Council did receive them. What immediate arrangements are they putting in place to ensure their safety as well as to ensure that they receive psychological support?
Yes, so as early as 3 o'clock, the RESEC, led by the Upper East Regional Minister and the Ghana Armed Forces Regional Commander and that of the Immigration Commander, were all at Paga to receive them. And yes, indeed, they were brought. The Regional Minister did not mince words in the arrangements government and by extension, the Ghana Armed Forces will be making to make sure that the survivors are comfortable. First of all, even at the border where they were met or received, the Ghana Armed Forces had put in place an ambulance services and also brought in some counselors and some chaplains who were to engage with the victims, get into their minds and help them to regain their stable mind. Also, food was being provided to them by the Ghana Armed Forces so that they would be comfortable wherever they would be staying. Also, I have been able to gather, because later on in the day, there was a current meeting, closed-door meeting with the RESEC, and so we were not allowed to go in. But later on, we learned that the regional minister and all the other members of the RESEC, and especially the Ghana Armed Forces, are making arrangements for these people, these survivors, to get a place to lay their heads, whilst government makes other plans or takes other plans to ensure that they are reintegrated into society fully. I also understand that in the next coming days, the Ghana Armed Forces and other sister security agencies will invite them to the regional capital, Bogotanga, where they will further take details from them, because some of the victims complained of harassment and also loss of other personal effects, which the military, the Ghana Police Service, and all the other sister agencies are not taking lightly. So for now, food is being arranged for them, accommodation is being arranged for them, medical help and that of psychological help is also being arranged for them to ensure that they are in a stable condition. And all of this is being led by the RESEC and also the Ghana Armed Forces.
Castro, thank you so much for your time. And Castro Sanyala is our Upper East Regional Correspondent.
Well, President John Dramani Mahama has expressed deep regret over the Valentine's Day killing of 7 Ghanaian tomato traders in northern Burkina Faso. President Mahama described the incident as a troubling indicator of rising insecurity in the sub-region.
We live in a dangerous sub-region, and recent incident has shown what the threat of instability and insecurity is to our regional integration and trade. As has been the tradition over decades, we trade amongst ourselves.
Meanwhile, ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, Reverend John Ntim Fodjo, says the defense and foreign ministers should visit Burkina Faso to apprise themselves of development following recent attacks on Ghanaian tomato traders. According to him, a direct engagement between Ghana's defense minister and his counterpart in Burkina Faso would help establish the true circumstances surrounding the incident. He spoke on News Central earlier today.
Since 72 hours, we got news of this incident. My expectation is that the Ministry for Defense, the Minister for Defense, or responsible for defense, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs should be able to make a trip to Burkina Faso to be able to ascertain the facts beyond the reports that the Minister for Interior has put out. Our expectation is that they ought to pay a visit, a high-level visit, particularly between the Minister for Defense in Ghana and counterparts in Burkina Faso to ascertain the actual circumstances that led to the killing, and further to that, certain concrete arrangement put in place to ensure the safety of Ghanaians who travel to Burkina Faso. We also, the whole country needs to be apprised on what exactly happened and details of how the government is handling it. 72 hours since the incident, apart from the very brief statement that was put out by the Minister for Interior with additional responsibility for national security, we haven't heard from the Minister for Foreign Affairs, we haven't heard from the Minister for Defense. These two ministers are the ministers whose jurisdiction much relates to this incident and ought to be briefing Ghanaians and ought to be engaging the citizens on how the things are unfolding, what happened, and the measures to be put in place to ensure guarantee the safety of our Ghanaian citizens going forward. And that brings us to the concerns we've been raising. There's a major defense leadership failure because we have a lot of intelligence and within the security architecture of this country, It is for a reason. The constitutionally, Minister for Defense substantively is expected to be appointed. For 7 months, we haven't had a substantive Minister for Defense. And so for 7 months, there's an acting minister who at the moment is engaged and deeply, engaged in cocoa financing and its challenges and making announcements, slashing, cocoa prices. So he will have very little time to fully provide leadership for the Ministry of Defense to coordinate intelligence between the counterparts in Burkina Faso and those who are here, and to be able to fashion out a coordination mechanism that will ensure the safety of traders that are applying their trade there. Lessons from all those circumstances when they are back will guide in putting in place the broader mechanisms that will ensure that any trader traveling out of Ghana will feel safe.
Well, the impact of this is already being felt at home because tomato shortage is feared in Ghana after traders and transport operators suspended trips to Burkina Faso over security concerns. And the decision follows reports that 8 Ghanaians were killed in a recent attack in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Boubacar, he has more in this report.
For decades, Burkina Faso has been a major source of tomatoes for Ghana, especially during the lean season.
Ghanaian tomato farmers depend on the mercy of the weather in the rainy season. But the Burkina government, who came to learn how to plant tomato in Ghana, has invested much into it. They have constructed a lot of dams. So it's the only source that we can get tomato.
But after reports that 8 Ghanaians were killed, traders say they can no longer risk their lives.
Sayenti bibia mfa asem we ho ye hu susunso papa bia se ye bekọ ho pa se ye kofanto za bagana ha pa de enya adwuma emma so kra
now dey ya stop ya ye nkrofo no sem obia anko onti se aban ye papa bekasa ama no ho ani no ye hu de wono nso woka na emma no bia ya so de afa ekire enti ye gusu ye hwe de besi ekire.
The boycott is likely to affect supply and prices are expected to rise if the situation continues.
You can see the boxes around the trucks have been packed. Within 1 week and above, if we stop going to Burkina to bring tomato, there will be scarcity in tomato in this country. So that is the problem.
Some traders are now turning to local farmers, but they say Ghana's production is still not enough to meet demand. They are calling on the government to construct dams to enable tomato farmers to produce all year round.
A dam no ane here if it's the kwana ye kon ehu ankasa wo free head to Burkina na ankasa pra ye hunu ono mo anopo just anadwo be 12 to any chemoni ade ehu wo kwa no so tie say mampani ene ye papa mutaka ene ye papa o mampani say aha dam no said ye hima aka no o munyama ye.
Market leaders are calling on government and security agencies to engage their counterpart in Burkina Faso to restore safety along the trade routes.
Even if they are not ready to construct the dam, they should provide security for the transporters when they are entry. They should join with the Touareg, president of the Burkina Faso, to provide security, because we are giving money to Burkinabes and we are bringing the seed or the fruit into the country.
For now, the transport of tomatoes from Burkina Faso to Ghana remains halted as fear continues to overshadow cross-border trade. Traders and transport operators are calling on the government to intervene by strengthening security measures and guaranteeing their safety. Ibrahim Abubakar, TV3 News, Kumasi.
Meanwhile, the Union of Informal Sector Associations and the General Agricultural Workers Union are proposing an engagement with government to address challenges in tomato production. The proposed meeting, they say, will focus on finding lasting solutions to boost local tomato production. Daniel Opoku has the rest of the story.
8 Ghanaian tomato traders lost their lives in neighboring Burkina Faso following attacks by terrorists in the area. The tragic incident has sparked fear among tomato traders who frequently travel across the border to purchase the produce for the local market. Deputy General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, Dr. Pascal Kaba, says government must move beyond rhetoric and prioritize agriculture with concrete action. He is proposing a sustainable funding mechanism to support local tomato farmers and reduce the need for traders to travel to Burkina Faso.
Over 3 million cedis on tomato imports alone. So it tells you that it's urgent for us to go into homegrown solutions for our problems. We already have. It's just about tailoring the resources to where it is needed most.
The General Secretary of the Union of Informal Workers Association, UNIWA, Enoch Bio, is also calling for engagement with government to find lasting solutions to the crisis.
22 hours, government should engage us in a meeting, UNIWA and the TUC and then the other drivers unions, so that together we can bring out our solutions and our projections, what government should do to solve this problem. One, government should provide support for the tomatoes farmers. And then 2, provide storage facilities. 3, and then processing machines or factory for processing the tomatoes when it comes in abundance in Ghana.
Both GAU and UNIWA insist that government must establish alternative funding arrangements to strengthen local tomato production and safeguard livelihoods.
It's the only sector that on the ground we don't have a connect from the ground to the top. We only have Minister of Food and Agriculture in Accra, and we don't have Minister of Agriculture in the district level. At the district level, somebody else is supervising them. So the chain is not there. It's the only sector that there's a lot of disconnect. When it comes to funding for agriculture, very minimal. But if we give a lot of prioritization to agriculture, a lot of changes will happen in this country, especially irrigation development.
The all-round farming for tomatoes farmers. There's nothing expensive than the life. So if government can put money in that sector and then save lives and save the economy, it will be better.
And still on agriculture, but away from tomatoes to cocoa, President John Dramani Mahama, he has emphasized the need for farmer-centered policies in Ghana's cocoa sector, drawing on his personal experience as a cocoa farmer to illustrate the tangible impact of government pricing decisions. He was speaking at the Made in Ghana Tree Crops Investment Summit and Exhibition.
The President's remarks follow the controversial reforms of the cocoa economy, where the farm gate price was slashed from 3,625 to 2,587 per bag to align with a volatile international market. Ghana, the world's second largest cocoa producer after Cote d'Ivoire, relies heavily on cocoa as a major foreign exchange earner and source of livelihoods for more than 800,000 farm households. Recent developments in the cocoa sector have included sharp fluctuations in global prices, which surged historic highs of over $10,000 per ton in 2024 before declining significantly due to improved production forecast and market corrections. These shifts have created uncertainty for producers and policymakers alike. The president emphasized that government decision on cocoa pricing and sector reforms must reflect realities faced by farmers whose incomes depend heavily on producer price adjustments announced annually by the Ghana Cocoa Board.
We collateralize the beans and they give us money to buy the cocoa and export. So because of that, we cannot even allocate enough of the beans to our local processors. And that's why government took the decision that we should change the funding cycle of cocoa by raising the money locally in cities, paying the farmers, and then allocating a certain portion of the cocoa beans to our processing capacity so that we can create jobs within our economic system and also stabilize the price of the cocoa that we produce. I planted cocoa on the 50 acres, so I'm a cocoa farmer. And so when the price was reduced by government, it affects me too. I want to be able to empathize with farmers so that when we take any policy decision, we know that it has an effect on farmers and we feel it ourselves. If the price If there's no fertilizer, the price of fertilizer is expensive. I feel it myself because I also buy fertilizer.
The summit, organized with support from the Ghana Tree Crop Authority, aims to attract investment into key tree crops, including cocoa, cashew, rubber, coconut, and oil palm, as part of efforts to diversify Ghana's agricultural economy and enhance value addition.
Let's now go to Parliament, where the anti-LGBTQ bill has been laid again before the House for consideration and passage to criminalize same-sex marriages and related matters in the country. Another legislation seeking to lift current restrictions in the Constitution on dual citizens has been laid for consideration. Christian Yale reports the House on Tuesday also debated the reduction in cocoa prices.
The bill has been wrapped in controversies ever since it was introduced from the 8th Parliament, and then in the last sitting of the 9th Parliament when it was once advertised and taken off the order paper. Last week, the Speaker of Parliament gave a ruling and a communication on it in which he indicated that after careful consideration, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, which is also known as the anti-LGBTQ bill, satisfies all constitutional needs and does not impose any charges on the Consolidated Fund, and so it must be laid again before the House. Today, that bill has been laid and referred to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee with support from leadership of the Human Rights Committee.
It is the expectation of the sponsors, which is bipartisan. It is a bipartisan private members bill which must be on record, and the expectation is that within this meeting, this Honourable House and all relevant committees will attach alacrity to this bill to pass it with urgency, as a matter of urgency.
The Majority Leader Mahama Yarga indicated that the bill must be tackled bipartisanly to ensure it is passed as soon as possible.
If we want to go partisan on this bill, it will be a problem. So it is important from the beginning that the bipartisanship is reflected at every stage, indicating our support and commitment to the passage of this bill, a commitment that we know will go up to the signing the bill. Because the other time, the commitment went and then it stopped at the gate of the Flagstaff House. This time to go into the Flagstaff House, and we will sign it.
Also, there is a Constitution of the Republic of Ghana amendment bill which seeks to primarily remove the current restrictions on dual citizens and the positions they can hold in the country. That bill as well has been laid for the first time and referred to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee.
Government cannot, in the course of the particular year, vary the producer price to the disadvantage of the farmer.
The raging issue about the cocoa prices cut was raised by the Minority Leader Alexander Afeomakin, who has demanded government to restore the cocoa producer price to what it inherited.
We, the minority, hereby call on the government as a matter of urgency to restore the producer price of cocoa in Ghana to its original value of 3,625 Ghana cedi per 64 kilogram bag with immediate effect. We also demand that government and Cocoa Board pay any difference that farmers and the LBCs might have suffered already by the recent announcement.
Cocoa prices can be reviewed upwards and can also be reviewed downwards. And that when you review it downwards, it's not an illegality. Same way, when you review it upwards, it's also not an illegality. So the charge that reviewing it is illegal is unfounded both in law and also in practice.
The coming days would be very interesting also because already there are indications from both sides of the House that they are ready to debate the tenant and the object of these crucial bills that have been read the first time. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Parliament.
And from Parliament to the courts now, state prosecutors say they plan to amend corruption charges against former National Service Authority Director of ASB Entry. He is accused of paying about 500 million cedis in allowances to more than 60,000 ghost names. He also allegedly embezzled some 106 million cedis from the NSA's Kumawu Farm project. Loaded Wasari has more here.
Osei Asibe Entry has pleaded not guilty to 14 counts of offences including causing financial loss, stealing, and money laundering. During proceedings on Tuesday, February 17, prosecutors told the court that the performance audit of the National Service Authority submitted to the Attorney General has given rise to the need for the earlier charge sheet to be amended against the former director. They therefore pleaded for a short adjournment to amend the charge sheet and replace the earlier one. The case has since been adjourned to Tuesday, February 25 to enable the prosecution to amend the charge sheet and for the plea of the former NSA director, Osei Asibe Entry, to be retaken. The former National Service Authority director was first granted 800 million Ghana cedi bail on October 30, with Justice Kizita Nako Akwashi ordering that he provide 6 sureties each backed by landed property. His lawyers, however, applied for the terms to be varied after he failed to meet the conditions. In December 2025, the court subsequently reviewed the bail conditions to 120 million Ghana cedis with 2 sureties, down from the previous 630 million Ghana cedis reduced bail term. Lord Idwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's now go to the Bono East region, where in an era where stories of corruption often dominate the headlines, a remarkable act of honesty by 4 police officers in the region is warming hearts. Imagine losing 85,000 cedis in the dead of night, only to have it returned to you intact. Shocking, right? That's the reality for one local businessman, Stephen Ofori, thanks to the integrity of the men in black at Ensua Barrier. Our correspondent Belinda Tete reports.
According to the police report, a speeding vehicle unknowingly dropped the bag containing the cash while passing through the checkpoint. The 4 officers on duty, Inspector George Apia, Sergeant Emanuela Asibui, Corporal Inu Shaibu, and Sergeant Albert Nketia secured the bag immediately. Rather than keeping the find, they followed strict protocol, documenting the discovery and alerting the Regional Police Command for further investigation. The bag had the name of Ofori and a phone number written on it. The police contacted the phone number written on the bag. A 53-year-old businessman from Ashtown, identified as Stephen Ofori, responded and later reported to the police to claim ownership.
On the 14th of February, in the early mornings, I received a call from our officers on the snap check duty at Hansua, the Techiman stretch towards Kanoso, reported that whilst on duty, the officers found a bag. We have done a little bit of background investigations, all confirming that Mr. Ofori will be the owner of the parcel. So we have met here this morning to formally hand over the parcel to him.
For Stephen Ofori, the discovery of the money was nothing short of a miracle, given the large amount and the circumstances of the loss.
Because
I was surprised because it's rare for you to experience such in this day and age. For them to have returned such huge amount of money tells me that some personnel are very professional and God-fearing. The Regional Police Command commended the professionalism and integrity of the officers involved, as well as the members of the community who drew the police attention to the bag. The Regional Command used the opportunity to urge officers to emulate this act of selflessness. Belinda Tete, TV3 News.
Let's now shift focus because the Advertising Association of Ghana has raised concerns regarding Billboard demolition threats and actions in the Greater Accra region. At a press conference, President of the association, Andrew Aka, cited a lack of direct engagement, alleged selective enforcement, and a missing structured framework from the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs.
The Advertising Association of Ghana cited what it described as a lack of direct engagement with key industry stakeholders, particularly outdoor advertising operators, prior to the commencement of the demolitions. It also expressed concern over the absence of a clearly communicated framework outlining phased implementation plans timelines, compliance requirements, and enforcement standards.
We had concerns from our members that their billboards are being marked to be taken down. Now, we want to state clearly that we are not against the decongestion of billboards in our cities. We are actually for it. We think that we should be called to come and sit and have a conversation. It is true that we got the invitation from the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs to be part of the committee. But the committee's job is not done.
President of the Advertising Association of Ghana, Andrew Aka, alleged selective enforcement, suggesting that some actions may have been influenced by political interests.
The reason why we ask that is that you cannot form a committee that is decongesting the cities and not involve the players in the industry. So we raised that question that why are you not inviting players in the industry? It could be 2, it could be 3, but you can't make a decision about, it's just like going to a hospital and making a decision without doctors and nurses. It doesn't work. The reason why we are asking for a plan so that we can follow is that whoever is marking does not know whether the board is legitimate or not. And the reason is that for those who are playing by the books, would have erected their billboards first. Those who are doing illegally will go and erect around it. Now, if you're going to decongest, how would you know which board came first or not?
The association acknowledged the need to sensitize the outdoor advertising landscape, improve road safety, and restore visual orders to Ghana's rapidly expanding urban centers. Billboard proliferation, particularly in Accra, has long been a subject of public debate, with concerns ranging from structural safety risk and road obstructions to revenue leakages and regulatory fragmentation among metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. However, the Advertising Association of Ghana stressed that enforcement must be transparent, predictable, and grounded in clearly defined regulatory frameworks.
We still have business, sport, and entertainment news coming to you right after this break. Don't go away.
I love President Charcoal. Why? When there are so many other charcoal toothpaste. That's both charcoal and lemon. Oh, does it? Yes. Look right here.
Yes. Pepsodent Charcoal has 2 of nature's powerful whitening ingredients. With the power of activated charcoal and lemon essence, it removes stains and whitens teeth naturally.
Convinced? Well, I am. Just look at your beautiful Pepsodent smile.
Welcome to the business segment of News 360. Tonight, industry analysts have issued a stark warning regarding the government's newly unveiled cocoa sector reform, stating that they are destined to fail unless the structural and operational inefficiencies at Cocoa Board are addressed. Speaking on Business Focus, analysts agreed that the board has long been plagued by Ghanaian state-owned enterprises disease, a systemic issue that requires more than just salary cuts to resolve.
A senior fellow at Africa Policy Lens, Dr. Eric Boachi-Yadom, characterized this SOE disease as a toxic mix of mismanagement, lack of accountability, and uncontrolled expenditure that eventually leads to once vibrant institutions running themselves into the ground.
We cannot eliminate debt entirely. Now the government is planning to go back and borrow domestically to fund the sector. But I think the structural problem, we need to find a way to address it because nothing has changed. Then secondly, there are operational inefficiencies that we need to be able to look at. All the challenges that cocoa farmers are facing today, we can attribute some percentage to structure, but we cannot take operational out. That the fact that the people that are supposed to take decision so that the farmer will be protected, because that's one of the mandates of Cocoa Board, the farmer will be protected, did not take prudent decision enough.
Financial analyst and CEO of Dayless Finance, Joe Jackson, argued that, including debt-ridden state-owned enterprises, SOEs, PBC Limited, formerly Produce Buying Company, and the Cocoa Processing Company, CPC, in the current cocoa sector reforms is a high-risk, high-cost venture that the Ghanaian taxpayer cannot afford.
What changes in management? What changes in efficiency? What changes in productivity will ensure that 97 million does not become a debt for Ghanaians? Effectively, it's you and I. Otherwise, this money will be pumped in, it will be taken out by debtors. They can't borrow on their balance sheet. We have a deep problem. And when you look at this cocoa bailout, these monies are being borrowed in addition to transfers from Cocoa Board to the public purse of debt. One in equity, two in cocoa road arrears owed.
Jackson sparked intense debate over the future of Ghana's struggling cocoa giant, suggesting that the state should allow PBC and CPC to collapse rather than sink billions into a rescue mission.
This bailout is expensive. There are cases where, with businesses, revival can be more expensive than allowing creative destruction to take place. Allow the two companies to die and start afresh. A private sector initiative to process. A private sector initiative to buy, backed by the government.
Dr. Boachi-Yadom's critique follows government announcement of a major restructuring plan for the sector.
So if we go and dump all this investment and we don't tackle the fundamental problem of Cocoa Board to ensure that we get enough yield to even feed these factories, all the money that we borrowed, will now be pushed on to the Ghanaian to pay.
Now, Ghana Securities and Exchange Commission has issued a public warning against an online investment scheme operating under the name Mechanism Marketing Limited, saying that the company is not licensed to operate in the country's capital market. The Securities and Exchange Commission says the group, also known as Mechanism, is neither licensed nor authorized to conduct investment business in the country.
The regulator, Securities and Exchange Commission, said any investment activity undertaken by the company is illegal under Ghanaian law. According to the Commission, the scheme is being promoted on social media and other online platforms where members of the public are being encouraged to invest. Potential investors are reportedly promised fixed daily returns for completing tasks described as Job 1 through to Job 10. Securities and Exchange Commission says the returns being advertised are unrealistic and unsustainable, and that the structure of the operation bears the hallmark of a fraudulent scheme designed to attract unsuspecting individuals. The Commission also stressed that running an investment operation without a valid license reaches both the Securities Industry Act of 2026 and the Companies Act of 2019. It's one that those behind an authorized scheme could face administrative penalties as well as criminal prosecution. SEC also says it is working with law enforcement agencies to take appropriate action against those responsible. It is urging the public to carry out due diligence before investing and to verify the licensing status of any investment company through its official channels, including website, email, and toll-free helpline.
And now to the commodities market as well as the currency market. We're back with some other news after this break. Don't go away.
Sports segment is brought to you by Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on News 360 with me, Horeku Ampofo. We begin with news coming in just a few minutes ago where the Black Stars have been confirmed to play a friendly game against co-host of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, Mexico. The friendly is expected to serve as a preparation for both teams ahead of the Mundial in 2026. The match will take place at a yet-to-be-announced venue in Mexico on Friday, May 22, days before they take on two other unnamed opponents as part of their World Cup preparations. This friendly brings Ghana's preparatory matches to 3, having already announced Austria and Germany for the next FIFA international window in March. Otoado and his backroom staff will, in the coming days, name their squad for the Austria and Germany friendlies, with a match against Mexico also adding to the series of test matches lined up ahead of the competition. Mexico will kick off their World Cup campaign against South Africa in the opening match on June 11, before battling either South Korea, Czech Republic, Denmark, Republic of Ireland, or North Macedonia in other Group A games. Ghana, on the other hand, will take on Panama on June 17 before the other Group L matches against England and Croatia, as both countries aim to make an impression at the World Cup. We'll be providing you with more Black Stars updates as the weeks go by. However, let's head to the Ghana Premier League, where there's some bad news for Kumasi Asante Kotoko as their troubles move from bad to worse because their head coach, Prince Owusu, has now been fined 10,000 cedis for unsporting conduct. It's not for the game against Heart of Oak. However, it's the one before that was against BBNE Gold Stars. The interim Kotoko coach has also been formally warned by the Ghana Football Association Disciplinary Committee for misconduct following Kotoko's Ghana Premier League game against BBNE Gold Stars. He was found guilty of unsporting behavior towards match officials after confronting the officials in an aggressive and improper manner during the said game. Meanwhile, the charge against Karim Zito has been withdrawn after further review of the available evidence, and he has been duly informed. Moving on to other stories on the continent, where record winners of the CAF Champions League, Al Ahly, have been drawn against Esperance Tunis in what should be a giant rivalry in the North African sector for the quarterfinal of the competition after the draw was conducted earlier in Egypt in Cairo on Tuesday. Al Ahly will travel to Tunisia to face Esperance in the first leg of their clash before the return match in Cairo. Defending champions Pyramids FC of Egypt will also be on the road in the opening leg as they head to Morocco to meet Asfar. Last season's losing finalist Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa will be at home to Stade Malien of Mali in the first leg of their tie, while RS Berkane of Morocco host Al Hilal of Sudan in their first matchup. To England now, and some good news for Arsenal fans because star player Bukayo Saka has extended his current deal with Arsenal by 5 years and is set to remain with the club up until at least 2031. The agreement is set to make Saka the club's best paid player on wages in excess of £300,000 a week. Talks over a new deal have been ongoing for about a year, with Saka verbally agreeing to commit his future to the club in January. Saka signed his previous deal, which was due to expire in 2027 and 2023, but his renewal means that the 24-year-old has committed his peak years to the Gunners. The news comes as a major boost for the Gunners as they battle on all four fronts to win silverware for the first time since 2020. Before we go, there would be Champions League action. That's the playoff round to determine the teams that progress to the last 16, and the first cohort of games are already being played tonight. We know that Benfica and Real Madrid will be renewing that bit of rivalry that they had earlier in the competition after they faced in that final group game in the league phase of the competition. And then there's Dortmund versus Kamaldeen Sulemana's Atlanta. The French teams Monaco and Paris Saint-Germain also rekindle their rivalry. Remember that you can get updates of all of these games and more on our social media handles at 3SportsGH. My name is Oreku Ampofu.
In my line of work, a confident smile is everything. Kale Charcoal Toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun.
To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kale Charcoal toothpaste. Kale Charcoal toothpaste. You're on a Kessie and in a kit one.
Stories. The Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, Ablaji Fagomashi, has reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to strengthening cultural relations with Burkina Faso following a high-level diplomatic meeting in Accra. The minister gave the assurance during a courtesy call by the ambassador of Burkina Faso to Ghana, David Cabre, where both sides underscored the importance of cultural diplomacy in deepening bilateral ties between the two West African neighbors. Fagomashi expressed appreciation for the long-standing and cordial relationship between Ghana and Burkina Faso. Ambassador Cabre, on his part, extended an invitation to Ghana to participate in two major cultural events scheduled to take place in Burkina Faso in 2026. These include the National Culture Week, slated for April 25 to May 2nd, 2026, and the 18th International Arts Craft Fair of Ouagadougou, which will run from October 30 to November 8, 2026. The meeting forms part of a renewed effort by both countries to leverage culture as a tool for regional integration, economic collaboration, and people-to-people exchange within the West African sub-region. In more entertainment stories, Ghanaian rapper Kwao Kese has announced plans to refund the $170 raised through GoFundMe campaign he sets for fellow artist Kwesi Arthur following public backlash. The crowdfunding initiative was launched weeks after Kwesi Arthur revealed on social media that his former management was demanding $150,000 from him for the use of his own images. However, Kwesi Arthur distanced himself from the fundraiser, stating that he had no prior knowledge of the campaign and urging the public to disregard it. Explaining his intentions, Kwao Kese said he acted out of goodwill given the strong fan base he and Kwesi Arthur had, believed they could collectively raise funds to settle the financial dispute involving Kwesi Arthur and his former management, Ground Up Charlie. Now, in the spirit of Valentine, on February 13th, Dalek Swift held the Valentine's Treasure Hunt themed Love Loud. The prizes, 2 iPhone 17 Pro Max, one for the winner and one for their partners. The company noted that when the winner was called, she was over the moon, practically burst with excitement. You could almost hear her voice, but things took a dramatic turn. As part of the terms and conditions, the winner had to share pictures publicly and go to to the Kwadwo Sheldon studios for an interview. Moments after they were asked for the photos, the excitement faded, replaced by hesitation. She called back saying she couldn't accept the prize because she didn't want her relationship exposed to the public. That's it for entertainment. I'm Esiedua Afinyi.
Tonight in this segment, 3 South Africans have been charged with murder following the killing of an e-hailing taxi driver, the man of whose death captured on dashcam footage has shocked many people. A video shared widely on social media shows a man and a woman tussling with the driver, Isaac Sattler, who they appeared to be robbing. Sattler tries to fight back before one of the passengers appears to strangle him until he goes limp. The trio, who were arrested over the weekend, were in court in Pretoria on Monday and have since abandoned their bail applications. They were not asked to comment on the charges. A 4th suspect later handed himself over to the police on Monday.
And thank you again for spending the last hour with us. There's always more news on our website, 3news.com. But that's it for News 360. My name is Noble Crosby.
And I am Portia Gabo. Good evening.